when was the last time that you did not feel enough?
Yesterday morning. First of all, I've been thinking about that question of being enough or not, and first of all, it's not a feeling. There's no such thing as feeling not enough. Feelings are like, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hungry, I'm tired. Those are feelings. I'm not enough is not a feeling. It's a belief. It's a perception. It's a belief. So when did I last believe that? I've been thinking about that question because a good friend of mine, who's a great trauma therapist and pioneer, Peter Levine, said to me about a year ago, and I talked about this in the book, in The Myth of Normal, but I didn't have the answer for it. Peter said to me about a year ago that he's 80 years old now. He's a couple of years older than I am. And he's been thinking about, have I done enough in life? And Peter said, yeah, when he thinks about it, I've done enough. I've justified my existence. I've given enough to the world. But then he says, then I ask myself the question, am I enough? And he says, I don't know about that one. So that was a year ago. And then 2 weeks ago, it struck me that there's no answer to that question. You know what the answer to that question is? Am I enough? The answer is, who's asking? Who's asking? That's the answer. Because who in us even questions the validity of our existence? In other words, who in us questions the truth that as human beings, by definition, we are enough? Because that's what. Does anybody ever say of a dog, are they enough? Or a whale, are they enough? Or a tree, are they enough? Or a rose, or an ant, or a cloud, are they enough? They just are what they are. And so that the very question, am I enough, comes from a place of insecurity and trauma. So the question is not, am I enough, but who's even asking if I am? That's the answer to the question. Well, wow. So have you ever met a one-day-old baby who doesn't believe they're enough? I mean, this not even occur to them,
Never.
So where did we go from being completely sufficient as a being at infancy to this adult who even dares ask that question? So now we're talking about trauma, because one of the impacts of trauma is this doubt in the value of one's own existence. So really the question is a trauma-based question, is what it is. Can you run as fast as Usain Bolt? Can you throw 3-pointers like Steph Curry?
That's an absolute no.
Okay, well, I'd share your secret, neither can I. So if you're speaking about specific tasks, it's perfectly legitimate to say, I don't know enough how to perform this task. But the question, am I enough? That's not what it's asking.
Right.
The question, am I enough, doesn't ask, can I do such and such? Am I good enough? I don't know how to fly an airplane. I know billions of things. There are billions of things that I don't know more than the things that I do know. So to say that I'm not adequate for a specific task, no, I'm not adequate to beat Usain Bolt in 100 meters. For God's sakes, I'm only 5'7" and I'm 78 years old. But even when I was 20 years old, I couldn't have beaten him, So I'm not enough. I'm not adequate enough. I don't have enough adequate skills for that task. But that's a different question from asking, am I enough? Am I doesn't have to do with doing. It has to do with being. And when you're asking, am I enough, you're questioning the very basis of validity of your existence. And by the way, that I can't run as fast or dunk basketball like Steph Curry, that's not a feeling. That's a perception. It's a completely valid perception. It happens to be the truth. But it's got nothing to do with, am I enough as a human being? Do you understand the distinction?